So we are talking about the latest release from Angus Reid. Some inspired writing here. If there ever was a museum of political gaffes built in British Columbia, the rollout of the Royal BC Museum's rebuild could occupy a gallery of its own. Just how badly has this landed with voters?
You might look at the last 4+ years of the Horgan government and say, to this point, there hasn't been a foot put forward that has gone really, really wrong. In this case, as the Premier has announced himself and acknowledged himself, this is an announcement that just did not go over well with British Columbians at a time of anxiety around the state of primary health care in this province, at a time where people at home are facing personal financial headwinds, and there is more scrutiny over the way dollars are being spent. This is an announcement that for many British Columbians came out of the blue and had them questioning whether this rebuild, this project, was the best and highest use of $789 million to be spent. And indeed, the data that we're seeing based on this survey shows that nearly 70% say that this is not something that they would have supported had they been the decision makers in this case.
Now, the museum gaffe, as you mentioned, comes in a time when the Premier already dealing with inflation, already dealing with affordability, and already dealing with healthcare challenges. And your numbers seem to bear out that voters have a dim view of how the government has handled each of those files too.
Yeah, we're facing a period of time, whether it's in British Columbia or nationally, where there are some pretty significant headwinds. Now, you can make the case that some of these headwinds, so inflation, supply chain problems, issues with rising interest rates, are out of the hands of the BC NDP government. But when it comes to the museum, this is an issue that was entirely in their hands and was an unforced error. The issue of healthcare, we've heard lots and lots of anecdotal stories around how British Columbians are feeling frustrated either by lack of access to a family doctor, issues around being on wait lists, issues with access to facilities at a time when hospitals either need retrofits or full rebuilds. And so perhaps for one of the first times in the tenure of this Horgan government, we are seeing some real levels of frustration after an extended honeymoon. Remember, there was the minority government in 2017. There was a period post-Liberal government of people saying, this is okay, this feels all right. We go into the pandemic, and of course, that was a period of time where provincial governments across the board, and in BC, particularly buffeted by the personal popularity of Dr. Bonnie Henry, people felt pretty good about their provincial government and the steps that they were taking. What we are seeing now, both nationally and in British Columbia, is that pandemic management is an issue very much in the rear view, and cost of living, affordability, and the way government is managing these files and spending its money is very much what British Columbians are focused on right now.
And finally, your number is also looking at whether all this helps new BC Liberal leader Kevin Falcon. So is he having a moment right now?
Not yet. So one of the things that we note is, although this museum announcement has been a vastly unpopular one, British Columbians taking a dim view, the BC NDP is not yet paying the price for it politically. We've yet to see the BC Liberals, or whatever they're going to be called, be able to politically capitalize on this in terms of the BC electorate saying, we're prepared to take another look at this party. And indeed, it's possible that Kevin Falcon may be onto an issue around branding. Important to remember that the BC Liberals were in power for the better part of 16 years. Usually in cases like this, and we've just seen this, as was the case in Ontario, when a government is turfed after a long, long period of time, it's not a 2-minute penalty, it's a game misconduct. So usually in political terms, that is a 2-election cycle. In the case of Kevin Falcon and the BC Liberals, they're bringing the game. They're certainly bringing the criticism more vociferously than they have before, and they're freed of the constraints of the pandemic that would, if they were still in that pandemic period, make them look and feel a little bit churlish for criticizing government. As British Columbians have put this in the rear view, it frees up space for the opposition to really start bringing the fight and bringing the game to this government. And we're seeing the signs of that, although it has yet to really politically pay off. I would note, though, that a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, there was an almost 30-point gap between the incumbent NDP and the BC Liberals. That's narrowed to 11 points. So it's still a comfortable lead, but it's not by no means an insurmountable one.